I'm Sophia, 22, and the day I was standing near the dining table with my grandpa beaming beside me, my brother said the words that shattered me. Take off that greasy apron, Soph. You're embarrassing the family. His voice sliced through my happiness like a knife, and the plate in my hands trembled. Grandpa squeezed my fingers, but Daniel's grin said he enjoyed watching me break. That was the morning I decided to stop being the joke and become the story he'd never lived down. The calf had a smell that wrapped around you like a childhood blanket, fresh cardamom, yeast, coffee simmered to a dark, sweet strength. We called it Yusuf's Corner, after my grandfather, Yusuf Rahman, who still insisted on polishing glasses even though his hands had grown unsteady. Every morning, I tied my hair back, slipped into my apron armor, and became the person people counted on, the girl with the smile, the quick coffee, the listening ear. People think waitressing is easy. They don't see the choreography. The way you memorize someone's favorite cup, the way you catch a falling glass while answering a question and reading a face for what it really means. I was good at it, proud of it, until Daniel started calling it practice for servitude. Daniel was the family star, Daniel Rahman, attorney at law who wore his success like a suit of mirrors so everyone could watch him shine. He had a voice that made people sign things and a handshake that felt like a transaction. He didn't just look down on the calf. He measured himself against it every time he visited home. Right before, he reminded my grandpa that the lease was month to month and the neighborhood was evolving. Evolving into what? Grandpa would ask. Into something we can't afford. Daniel would answer, eyes on his phone. Unless someone modernizes. When he said someone, he meant me. That morning near the dining table, with fried bread cooling on a paper towel and sunlight catching Grandpa's silver hair, Daniel's contempt was different, sharper. I saw something else lurking behind it. Impatience. Embarrassing the family? I said, I'm helping the family. You're holding us back. Daniel poured himself coffee like it was his house and his pot. Grandpa's lease is up for renewal next month. I met the new landlord. He's willing to talk if we're realistic. Realistic how? I asked. Sell, close, convert, he said, ticking off options like charges in a courtroom. People don't need old cafes. They need branded experiences. Grandpa gave me that tight, polite smile he used with difficult customers. But the mug trembled in his hand. The betrayal stung because Daniel knew how much this place meant to him, to us. Go to work, Soph, Daniel added, sipping. Let the adults talk numbers. I went to work. But I didn't forget. And I didn't forgive. The day the universe cracked was 3 weeks later. The breakfast rush had just ended. Grandpa had taken a seat to rest after telling a table of regulars, Mrs. Patel, Jonah, Ruth, another story about the first night he opened the caf in the ADS. When neon lights were new and the city streets felt like a dare, I heard the bell above the door ring and felt the temperature drop. Daniel walked in with a man in a navy blazer, slick, expensive, out of place among scuffed stools and crochet doilies. They chose a booth. I took their order because that was my job, my right, and my stage. 2 Americanos, Daniel said, not looking at me. Sophia, could you avoid listening? I can try not to hear you, I said, but you project. Navy blazer smirked. He's right, he told Daniel. She's funny. Don't confuse funny with useful, Daniel replied, eyes sliding over me like I was napkin lint. Something in me turned to steel. I delivered their coffees and retreated behind the counter, wiping a spotless surface while my ears did what Daniel should have expected, work. The caf wasn't loud. The conversation floated like oil on water. Pre-signed, Navy said softly. The assignment will go through once you obtain the final signature. Pre-signed by whom? Daniel asked. By you, as proxy. The old man's consent is implied. My heart stopped. I set the cloth down, stared at their reflected faces in the glass of the pastry case, and caught Daniel's profile. Cool, efficient, certain. I didn't move until they passed the counter. I didn't speak until the doorbell chimed their exit. Then I marched to the back room, shut the door, and leaned my head against it hard enough to feel the wood grain. Grandpa's consent. Implied? Proxy? Pre-signed? I knew enough from listening to people spill their lives between orders that you never panic when you're holding a thread. You pull it. I pulled it that night in Maya's studio apartment, where plants hung from the ceiling like a little jungle. Maya has been my friend since childhood, the kind of person who helps you fix a hem with safety pins and a smile. She'd become a paralegal, not a lawyer, but close enough to read one. Start from the top, Maya said, sitting cross-legged with her laptop open. And no skipping ugly parts. I told her everything, the insult at the table, the landlord. This mysterious assignment. I watched her eyes flick as if scanning footnotes midair. If Daniel signed anything on Grandpa's behalf, she said, that's a problem. Unless he has power of attorney with explicit property permissions, he's a peacock with a pen. I pressed my palms together. Can we prove it? We can look, she said. Public records, filings, lease history. If the landlord filed for a zoning change, that's public too. We dug for hours, eating instant noodles and whispering like burglars. By 2 a.m. we had a trail, a proposed zoning reclassification for our block, hours of public comment scheduled for a city hearing. Attached to the application, a letter of support from our CAF Yusuf's corner on crisp letterhead that we had never used, and at the bottom, a signature that looked like Grandpa's, except it wasn't. I knew the flourish of his R like I knew the creak in the second stool. Maya exhaled through her teeth. This looks like forgery. If Daniel drafted it, he always does his own drafting, I said, voice gone cold. He brags about it. We sat with that quiet. Forgery, a word like a cliff. Tomorrow, I said, standing. We record everything. Morning arrived with the clink of cups and the weight of determination. I tucked my phone into the pocket of my apron, camera angled toward the counter. I asked Jonah to stall Daniel if he showed. He nodded, eyes narrowing with loyal mischief. I told Ruth to sit near the window with her knitting and listen. She winked. Daniel didn't come. But the landlord did. Mr. Curtis, slick hair, the kind of smile that says let's make a deal while the paper under your pen burns. He swept in like he owned the place. Yusuf, he said brightly, I have the renewal documents. Just a formality. Grandpa, polite as always, asked me to bring tea. I brought it, set it down, and stepped back so my phone could see. Just sign here, Curtis said, flipping to the final page and tapping. The pen he offered was heavy, gold-tipped. A trophy. Grandpa squinted. My eyes aren't what they used to be. Sophia, darling? He was asking me to read. Curtis's smile didn't falter, but it tightened. I skimmed the fine print and felt my stomach drop. The renewal wasn't a renewal. It was an assignment of lease to a management group called Nectar Properties, with a clause that allowed subletting to a branded experience partner, the part that curdled my blood, an acknowledgement that Grandpa had already agreed to. Forthcoming closures for renovations. I looked up slowly. When did we agree to renovations? Curtis's eyes flicked to my pocket like he could feel the lens. It's already been discussed. With whom? Your family's council. He smiled again. Daniel. The calf went silent. Ruth's knitting needles stopped clicking. Grandpa, I said gently, placing the papers in front of him, this doesn't renew. It erases. Curtis went from sunshine to thunderstorm. Miss Ramon, you're interfering. I'm reading. Then read this part. He tapped the signature line. Your grandfather expresses consent to the zoning reclassification as previously stated in his letter. All in order. Grandpa blinked. I wrote no letter. I write receipts. I write love notes to my granddaughter on napkins. I wrote no letter. Curtis stood, snatching the documents back. Then I'll speak to Daniel. You do that, I said and added, smile for the camera. Curtis paled. He left. When the door closed, I turned to our regulars, to our little calf family, and whispered, I think my brother forged Grandpa's name. A lawyer who cheats? Jonah said. Groundbreaking. Don't make jokes, Ruth snapped. What do we do? I looked at Grandpa, who looked at me, and I felt like the adult Daniel talked about. The one who made choices. The one who made storms change direction. We fight, I said. But we do it clean. The plan took shape like dough under steady hands. Step 1. Gather proof. Maya coached me on what to seek. Emails, drafts, anything linking Daniel to the forged letter. I had access to the old home computer. Daniel sometimes used it when he visited. That night, I searched the cache and found a PDF export with metadata. Author, D. Ramon. File name, Yusuf Support Letter V3, PDF. My breath raced. I forwarded it to myself, then to Maya, who sent it to a contact in the city clerk's office to preserve the file for the record. Step 2. The hearing. The zoning hearing was set for Thursday, a public affair with microphones and agendas and civic pride. I decided to speak, not as a granddaughter, as a manager of a small business and a citizen. Step 3. Send a message. Daniel couldn't ignore. I invited him to the hearing with a text. Grandpa's health is fragile. The calf is his heart. Please come hear what we have to say, he replied minutes later. Handle it. I'm in conference. The detachment hurt more than I expected. So I wrote again. We have your letter. No reply. But at PM, my phone lit up with his name. Sophia, he said lightly, you're misunderstanding. It's a template. A template signed with Grandpa's name? Don't be dramatic. He sighed. You're young. You think fighting change is noble. It's not. It's noisy. You forged his name. I did what was necessary. You did what was easy, I said. See you Thursday. Thursday arrived with rain and headlines. Local calf contests rezoning after misses. Patel posted the video clip of Curtis on her community page. People showed up, neighbors squeezing under umbrellas, a biker who'd drawn sketches at table 3, the nurse who picked up cinnamon buns for the night shift. Grandpa wore his best sweater and held my arm like it was dignity itself. Daniel arrived late, tailored and trimmed, the storm slicking his hair like a commercial. He sat on the aisle, glanced at us, and looked away, as if we were a case he could win by ignoring. The chairwoman called our docket. Curtis stood to speak, voice smooth. He talked about revitalization, economic opportunity, and activating space. He referenced community support and held up a copy of the letter, our letter. When it was our turn, I walked to the microphone, heart punching my ribs. My hands were steady. Maya sat in the second row, a lighthouse. Grandpa watched me with pride that made my throat burn. Good evening, I began. My name is Sophia Rahman, and I manage Yusuf's Corner with my grandfather. We support growth. We serve coffee to the builders of this city every morning. But growth without consent is theft. The room stilled. The letter cited tonight, I continued, was submitted without our knowledge or permission. The attached signature does not belong to my grandfather. We have evidence that the document's author is my brother, Daniel Rahman, attorney, who acted as if he were our proxy without legal authority. A murmur rolled through the chamber. Daniel's head finally turned toward me, sharp as a blade. I nodded to the clerk. Maya had arranged this. The clerk displayed the document metadata on a screen behind us. Author, D. Rahman. Then, side by side, we showed a lineup of Grandpa's signatures from tax forms and receipts against the letter. The differences were clear. His looping R, the gentle tail of his Y. The letter's signature was stiff, slanted, angry. Curtis objected, voice tight. This is highly irregular. The chairwoman peered over her glasses. So is using forged support to push a zoning change. Daniel rose slowly, smoothing his tie, and stepped to the mic. For a second, I saw him as I once had, handsome, assured, the boy who taught me to cross the street looking both ways. He gazed at the crowd like a preacher and began, Chairwoman, members of the board, mistakes were made. Not I made them. Not I'm sorry. Mistakes were made. He tried to frame it as miscommunication, as rushed deadlines, as family coordinating informally. He tried to charm the air. He tried to turn the page without reading it. I didn't let him. I lifted Grandpa's old receipt book, the one with the stain shaped like a heart. This is how my grandfather signs his name, with care, with a steady love for this city. The person who signed that letter used a pen like a razor. The chairwoman called a recess for counsel to review. When she returned, her verdict was clear. The board will table this application pending investigation into the alleged forgery. Until resolved, no action on rezoning this block will proceed. A breath, a sound like relief, like rain easing, like a crowd remembering it had lungs. The people in the room, our customers, our neighbors, began to clap. Daniel didn't look at me. He stood frozen, fury sharpening his profile. People think that was the end. It wasn't. Revenge, true revenge, isn't a knockout. It's a mirror. It's making the person who hurt you face themselves until they blink. After the hearing, Daniel cornered me in the hallway. Are you proud? He hissed. Yes, I said simply. You humiliated me. You humiliated yourself. He swallowed, throat working. You don't understand the stakes. Explain them. He hesitated. And then something I hadn't expected cracked his mask. I made a promise, he said, to a partner, to someone who thinks I'm the man who gets things done. The man who forges his grandfather's name. I asked softly. His flinch was quick. I was going to tell Grandpa. After the sale, he would have gotten paid. Payment isn't consent. I held his gaze. You always think money is a new truth. It's just a louder lie. He stepped back, like the hallway itself shifted beneath him. You think you won. I think I started. The weeks that followed were their own war. Curtis tried to apply pressure. The landlord served us a surprise. inspection, then a sudden rent hike notice that we challenged with help from a tenants' coalition. Daniel's firm sent a letter threatening defamation consequences, which Maya flagged as flimsy given the public record. The investigation moved slowly. We worked every day like the calf was a song we intended to keep singing, if you want. The scene where Daniel collapses and apologizes. You'll be disappointed. Real life is messier. It took time. The calf became a sanctuary. Jonas started playing his guitar on Saturdays. Ruth taught a knitter's circle by the window. Mrs. Patel organized a fundraiser to help us cover legal consultations. Every regular left a note on the back wall. This place held me when the world didn't. Those notes became armor we read when the mail brought threats. Grandpa watched all of it with eyes that had seen loss and love, and now, finally, a granddaughter who roared. One evening, 2 months after the hearing, Daniel showed up. He didn't come in a suit. He wore a plain jacket, like a man learning how to be ordinary. He took a seat at the counter. He didn't order coffee, I asked. He nodded. I poured and set it down. He wrapped his hands around the warmth as if remembering what heat felt like. I talked to the board investigator, he said, not looking at me. I admitted I drafted the letter. My breath caught. He swallowed. I told them I signed it. I said Grandpa had expressed support for Bally and I translated it to paper. They didn't buy it. My firm put me on leave. Curtis is threatening to sue me. I might lose my license. The boy in the hallway, the man at the hearing, the son who never learned how to say I'm wrong. I saw all of them sitting on that stool. What do you want me to say? I asked, voice steady. He stared at the coffee. I wanted you to say it was okay. That you understood? Why? I do understand, I said quietly. You were afraid you'd fail at the only thing that makes people clap when you enter a room. He laughed once, a broken sound. You always see too much. It's because you always hide too much. He nodded. I'm sorry, he said, and for the first time I believed him. Not because he was small, because he was honest. I can't fix your career, I said. But you can fix what you broke here. He looked at the back wall at the notes. How? You're a lawyer, I said. Be a good one. Help us turn the lease into a community trust. Help us write bylaws that prevent a sale without unanimous approval. Help us apply for historical small business protection. Help us make this calf inflippable. He stared, surprised. You'd let me after this isn't mercy, I said. It's accountability. His mouth twitched. You should have been the lawyer. I prefer honest work, I said, and he didn't argue. We worked. All of us. Daniel drafted, then redrafted, then brought in a mentor who actually believed in ethics. Maya cross-checked every line like a hawk. The neighborhood association rallied. The community board co-sponsored our application for a small business legacy designation. The city's investigation concluded with a reprimand and a fine for Daniel, a warning for Curtis's tactics, and a public apology in the hearing minutes that read, consent must be authenticated and respected. The day the community trust was approved, the sunlight slanted across the calf and painted the tables gold. Grandpa stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back. The way he always did when he was happy and pretending not to cry. Customers poured in with flowers and cheap champagne, cheering, filling the room with a joy that made the air taste sweet. Daniel hovered awkwardly at the edge until I nodded him toward the counter. He took the register, learned the buttons, made mistakes, apologized to Mrs. Patel, and refunded Jonah twice by accident. He laughed genuinely. When Ruth teased him about being all thumbs without a briefcase, Grandpa cleared his throat and pulled me close. You did this, he whispered. No, I said, watching Daniel wipe a spill with a humility that suited him. We did this. He squeezed my hand. And when I am gone many years from now, he added quickly, superstitious smile in place, they'll still be here. Because you are. I looked up at the wall of notes and felt something settle inside me. Not victory exactly, belonging. That night, after the chairs flipped onto tables and the lights dimmed, Daniel stayed behind. He leaned on the counter, tired and human. I'll never be able to make up for what I did, he said. You won't have to, I answered, locking the till. You'll just keep choosing not to do it again, he nodded. Deal. We stood in comfortable silence, the calf humming softly like a sleeping cat. Outside, the street lamps haloed the sidewalk. I thought of that first insult at the dining table, how small it made me feel, how big it had made my resolve. I thought of stories, and how people like my grandpa fed us with food and meaning, and how important it is to defend both. I used to think waiting tables was small, I said, flicking off the final light. But it's one of the biggest things in the world. Taking care. Daniel looked at me. You're the adult, he said, and meant it this time. I smiled. Took you long enough. We stepped outside into the warm night, locked the door behind us, and left Yusuf's corner exactly where it belonged, in the heart of a city that now knew its name. If this story moved you, like the video to help more people find it. Subscribe for more true to life, long-form stories of resilience, betrayal, and redemption. And in the comments, tell me, what's a place or person you'd fight to protect, no matter what? Your story might inspire the next episode.